Hi all, thank you for joining us in another session of Gentle Chair Yoga with Keith Beasley. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge our friends of the Brookline Library for sponsoring this program and programs like it. I also wanted to thank our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who will be streaming this program through Facebook, YouTube, and local channel 3 on RCN and Xfinity. This program is also being streamed through the library's Facebook page as well. I would also like to read a quick disclaimer before we begin. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care and advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. And with that, I give you Keith Beasley.
Hi, good morning. Let's do some yoga. So let's start out with a centering exercise. Whenever we start our yoga class, we need to come inside here, which means we need to focus away from all the stuff around us, all the stuff we normally see and hear. So let's just focus on the sound of this. This is a singing bowl. It sounds nice when you tap the side. Feel free to close the eyes, sit up nice and tall. Relax the face and eyes. Soften the shoulders and the arms and the hands and the fingers. And feeling the belly moving with the breath. So the abdomen is moving in and out, or the belly button maybe. And feel free to rest your palm on the navel to help feel it go in and out. Extending the spine up and then softening the rest of the body. So the arms and shoulders are hanging down off the spine, the buttocks and the legs. It's as if there's this rising up in the center of the body and lengthening along the center of the body all the way up through the crown of the head. And then the rest of the body is soft and relaxed and hanging down, going with gravity. The spine is lifting up towards the sky. And the rest of the body is soft. Now let's begin with a breathing exercise, continuing where we are with the abdominal breathing or the belly breathing. And feeling the belly rising and falling. And then repeat after me silently to yourself. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Notice the time on those is about the same. So we get a nice rhythm of in and out with about the same amount of time on each. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. And what I'd like you to do is remember that phrase, that breathing in, I know I'm breathing in, breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Because when we end the class, we'll end, and you'll have the opportunity to continue with Savasana at the end on your own. And it's nice to just sit for maybe 5, even 10 minutes and practice the breath. Feel the breath, really. I mean, we practice the breath. We always practice the breath, but we don't always feel the breath. So we want to tune into the breath and that rhythmical breathing like that, in and out through the nostrils if you can. It's more calming to use the nostrils rather than breathing through the mouth. And that's a nice way to begin to get the habit, cultivate the habit of mindful breathing, or relaxed breathing, maybe more than even mindful, so that we slow the breath down, and that even when things are not maybe ideal in our life, a little bit slower breath makes us feel a little bit less bothered by this not ideal stuff, whatever it might be. So let's begin. We'll sit up nice and tall, and we're going to use our hands now and arms to facilitate the breath and also to lengthen the spine. So there's really I'd say the two most important things that we do in this class are the axial extension of the spine, that lengthening of the spine, which is so important for maintaining our nervous system, because all the nervous system really runs through the spine and the spinal cord. And when we get compression in the vertebra, it causes all kinds of problems for us. Not just localized pain, but also people get numbness. So it's really important to keep length, but also to do it in a way that's relaxed. So we always, when we practice, think about balancing ease and effort. So in yoga, there's a famous, it's a very old yoga saying. It's in Sanskrit. It's sthira sukha asanam. And sthira means effort or persistence. And sukha means ease. And asanam is asana, is posture. It means posture. So we want to balance ease and effort. And that makes we feel better when we are balanced, when we maintain that balance, so without straining. So let's bring the palms together, and we'll inhale and circle the hands up and around. And when we do this exercise, the movement follows the breath. So I bring the palms together, and then I begin to breathe in. And as I begin to breathe, the hands ride up on the breath. And the chest opens. So notice the elbows move slightly back without forcing, though. It's almost like I'm inviting my heart to open. I'm inviting my chest to open, to expand. And that's so important, especially as we move into the winter. We're getting into fall, we'll be in the winter. This opening of the heart is a famous yoga teacher named B.K.S. Iyengar. And he used to say that if your chest was open, you could never be sad and depressed. And I think the reason for that is because we experience more energy. When the chest is open, we get a very gentle back bend, or maybe an extension of the spine is better. It's not really a back bend, but extension of the spine is, I'll turn sideways so you can see, is the curve going in like this versus flexion, which is like this. And this is more calming. So doing exercises with flexion before you go to bed can be a nice way to practice. And we'll extend up, lift, and open the heart as we come around. lift and open the heart as we come around. And then go ahead and bring the palms together. And another way to open the heart is breathing in with our cactus breath like this, letting the hands open and then close. Feeling the shoulder blades coming together behind us. So as the elbows move back, the shoulder blades begin to come together. It's important to keep the shoulders relaxed though. So don't sacrifice the relaxation in the shoulders to get more opening. They work together. So we need to be able to open and keep the shoulders relaxed. I would actually say the shoulders being relaxed is probably more important, because if they're not relaxed, we create tension, and this whole area, including the neck, becomes stiff and restricts our movement. So if you find that your shoulders are bunching up like this, try dropping the elbows down more and the hands down more and opening more like this. And don't go any higher than the elbows at the shoulder level like this. So no higher than about like this. And if you want to, you can drop down like this. And let's bring the hands back. We're going to go the opposite way now. We're going to exhale, let the hands float down, and then let the hands float up. And same thing here, we're inhaling. And as we inhale, the hands ride up on the inhalation. And then they come together and they come down right in the front. So there's a softness of the hands pressing together as they come down the front of the body. And at the same time, the spine is extending up. So we need to feel the sitting bones underneath us. Actually, pause for 1 minute and just rock side to side like this for a moment and feel the sitting bones. So ideally, you have a chair. If the chair is too squishy and too soft, when we rock like this, it just feels like your butt squashing back and forth on a cushion. So we want it to not be rock hard, but we want it to be firm so that we can feel the sitting bones. And the sitting bones they're right next to each other at the base of the pelvis. So when I rock like this, I can feel them moving. And then I'm going to stop. I'm going to come to a stop right in the center so they feel balanced. And then let's do that one more time with the arms moving around. Try it again, feeling balanced, feeling the sitting bones. You can even gently press the feet into the floor. So this is maybe a 20 or 30% effort. It's an isometric contraction of the quadriceps, gently pressing down and circling around. And then bringing the palms back together and just pausing for a moment. Now let's go back to the rocking that we were doing before. And this time we're going to lift the foot up on one side. So as if we're going to balance, we're going to go from one side to the other, and we're going to stay balanced on the sitting bones or the buttocks like this. And you can adjust it to your liking. So for some people, you might want to lift the knee a little higher, and there'll be a little more engagement, especially for the belly and hip flexors. And for other people, that might be uncomfortable. And it's okay to not lift it so high. And some people might even want to go a little further to the side. Just make sure you don't fall out of the chair. Especially if you start to slow down and you balance a little more for a moment when you go to the side. So if balance is a concern at all, it's ideal to have, might be better to have arms on the chair. I mean, this chair doesn't have arms. So, but I do have other chairs in the house I could use that have arms. So you sort of have to figure that out for yourself. And then we're going to start to slow down a little bit and come to the center, letting the spine extend up, and then think about lifting the heel up on one leg. So I'll turn sideways so you can see my knees are straight out in front, and I'm looking straight ahead, and I'm lifting my heel up like this and coming up on the toes. And if I want, I could lift the toes up as well. And then I'm going to come back down. So I'm starting by lifting the heel, and then it's almost like I'm peeling the foot off the floor. So I lift the heel, and then the rest of the foot starts to peel slowly until I get to the toes on the front, and then I could lift them as well, and then come back down. You'll find that as the more of the foot you end up peeling off the floor, the more effort is required in the belly and the quadricep and the hip flexor. So you'll want to modulate depending on your how you're feeling, how far you lift the hip, how far you lift the foot. And if you want more of a challenge, if this is too easy, try lifting the foot further up, and you'll definitely feel it more in the belly. And then coming back down slowly. So we're moving slowly here, and we're keeping the torso, we're keeping stability in this part of the frame of the body. So the shoulders and the torso are stable. And let's switch feet. And it's a very different experience than the rocking we were doing before, especially because we're moving slowly and mindfully, and also having to keep our center right here from moving. So we're not moving the center, and it's a really different way to practice that stability. And in the beginning, you might find it's harder to do. With practice, it's not so bad. And this is another one where, so I'm not using the back of the chair here, but you're welcome to use the back of the chair for support. So if you need the back of the chair, please slide back and use it. And you'll find that using the back of the chair makes this a little bit easier to lift up. Because we remember, when we remove a foot like this, we hold our foot up, we lose some stability in the body. I mean, our feet give us the stability when we move, or when we stand, or even when we sit. And let's close the eyes for a moment. Take a couple of breaths. And we're going to warm up all the joints in the body. So let's begin by opening and closing the hands. And then we're going to do the feet, or I should say the toes. So lift and spread the toes here. Lift and spread the toes. So you'll notice that the rest of my foot sits on the floor. It actually is just sort of staying there. So I'm not moving the rest of the foot. And now let's add the two together. So I'm going to lift and spread my toes, and I'm going to lift and spread my fingers like this, and I'm going to relax them. So they're going to work in unison, so that the lifting and spreading part of the toes is the same as the fingers. And then I relax. Lift and spread, relax. The relaxation part is very important, because we want to have a freedom of movement, but without tension. Without tension. So no matter how we do this, we want to be that balance of ease and effort. And you might want a little bit more effort, a little less ease, but we don't want to be so far to one side, and we don't want to be so easy that it's that we get kind of just like a couch potato, and we just sort of fade into the woodwork. So that's the other possibility with our practice, is sometimes we get lazy, and it's actually normal. And there's a lot of very old yoga philosophic literature or books, and they talk about that. they talk about the impediments to practice. And this goes for really any practice. Sometimes practices ebb and flow. So ideally, we try to keep the practice flowing as best we can. And so we got our feet going like this, and now we're going to rock our feet. We're going to rock the feet. This is going to activate the calf muscle in the back and the shin muscles along the front of the lower leg. And see if you can keep the feet in alignment. And at the same time, remember, we're still extending the spine up. The spine is still lifting up. Spine is still lifting up. And I'm going to open and let's do it like this. Let's add the hands, opening like this and closing when the toes come up. So we're going to go back and forth. Back and forth. So the rhythm is the same for both the feet and the hands. So I go to one end and then I go back to the other side. One end, back to the other side. Back and forth. And what you might notice is feel the calf and the shin working here, and also feel the muscles in the forearm working. So in a sense, the forearm, the extension from the elbow is similar to the extension from the knee down to the ankle. It's almost like if you put them like this, it's the arm this is the arm version of the knee to the ankle. And you can feel the muscles are similar. And of course, the anatomy, the bones are similar too. We have the ulnus and the radii here. And so we have some similar sort of anatomy format. And then we're going to go ahead and rest the arms like this. And then we're going to lift up, touch the shoulder, and extend the leg on the opposite side. So let's do it like this. So we'll go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we're going to keep going like this for a few more times. And if you lose track, and it's really easy sometimes to lose track, come back, start in a neutral position like this, and then lift up again. And try closing the eyes here. So once you get the movement, once you see what we're doing, try closing your eyes. Don't worry about what I'm doing, because sometimes I do it wrong. And then come back down. We're going to slide forward in the chair now. If you're against the back of the chair, please come forward, and we're going to circle around. So we're circling. And then let's go back the other way. Let's go back the other way. And come back to the center, and let's do some cactus breaths. So open the heart and the chest. And perhaps now, after a little warm up, these are a little more flowing, there's a little more ease here as we move the arms back and forth, almost like we're a bird flapping our wings, but instead of flapping up and down like this, we're flapping forward and back. Keeping the shoulders relaxed. The shoulders are very relaxed here. And I'm wondering if somebody can confirm the video. I'm seeing somebody else's image on the video, just to make sure that we're seeing the right thing. And let's rock from side to side. And then sitting up nice and tall. And let's do the neck. But before we do the neck, we're going to massage the ears. So we've done this before.
Keith, your video looks really good.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Somebody else was just on my screen anyway. But good. That's what we want. Thank you. So we're going to start by just gently, very gently, and I'll move closer so you can see. I take the earlobe like this, and I give it a squeeze and just very gently pull, and I go up the ear and down the ear. And I can do both ears at the same time. It's nice because we have two hands. And this kind of softens the ears up, and there's a connection. It does something to the fascia with the neck. Not sure exactly what that is. Well, we know what fascia is, but we're not sure what the connection is. We don't understand the fascia is let's bring the hands down. The fascia is that part of the covering of the muscles that sort of holds the muscles in place, not the skin, but underneath there. And we're going to lift the chin up and down. And if you want to find out more about the fascia system, you can look online. It's a relatively new area that they're learning about. And then we're going to sweep the nose from side to side. Still sitting up nice and tall. So if you want more of a challenge here, slide to the front of the chair. You might even, if you slide near the edge of the chair, sometimes it's easier to get the pelvis to tip forward. So when we want to have good posture in our seat, it's important that the pelvis begin to tip forward so that the lower back isn't flat or rounded like this. We always want to, when the pelvis begins to tip forward, we get a little bit more curve in the back. So we don't want too much curve, but we don't want it flat, or the opposite. The other thing that can help too sometimes to get that a little more curve in the lower back and to be able to sit up with more ease is to have the knees slightly more apart. That gives room for the pelvis to tip forward. And let's come back, and so we're doing the neck. So let's tip the head. If you want, you can add your pillow with your hands. Also, the breath can be a good thing to work with here. We're exhaling as we release the neck to the side, inhaling, coming up. So inhaling and exhaling. And inhaling and exhaling. And one more time on each side. And then coming back up, and then circling. Almost like if we had a paintbrush on the end of our nose, we're drawing a circle or painting a picture of a circle with our nose. So notice I'm not dropping my head backwards. A little bit maybe. And then please go the other way. And we'll sit up nice and tall, take a couple of cactus breaths. And this time you can wrap yourself with a little hug if you want. So remember, we can hug here like the elbows. That's the first step. The next step is the upper arms. And then the last step is the shoulders, or maybe even the shoulder blades behind you. And make this a nice, free and easy opening and closing. So it's an inhale. You can even give a sigh. Inhale. A couple more. And one more. So bringing some freedom of movement to the thoracic spine, the spine right between the shoulder blades, that section that runs right between the shoulder blades. And sitting up nice and tall. Take a couple of breaths. And let's stand up or do a seated mountain pose. Seated mountain pose or standing mountain pose, your choice. So standing up, feeling the feet, feeling the undersides of the feet. And remember before we were lifting and spreading the toes, try that again with the hands and the toes. And what we're trying to do here is if we're standing, it changes. You'll notice the toes are actually very important in our balance. They help a lot with keeping us steady on our feet. But when you lift the toes, notice how you can feel the rest of the feet more easily when you're standing. So that you can stay standing. So that when I look at my foot, I've got this, I feel here, I feel the outside edge, and I feel the ball of the foot here. I don't feel so much the arch, unless you've got really collapsed arches. But ideally, the arch is lifted at least a little bit. So we have a sort of this C shape on the bottom of the foot that we feel. And just notice that you can really feel it a little bit more when you lift and spread the toes when you're standing. It's almost like that C shape presses down into the floor with more firmness. And then very slightly bend the knees and straighten. Very slightly bend and straighten. And I'm going to grab a chair that's right here, an extra chair. So remember, you can use a chair here. It's a nice way to practice. If there's any issue with balance, resting the fingertips here, and then bending and straightening. And notice that when I bend my knees, my toes are pointed straight ahead. I like my ankles underneath the hips, so approximately hip width on the feet. And my knees are going straight ahead. I'm not letting them go out or in. I'm making sure they go nice and straight. And one of them works better. This one is more compliant. This one I have to kind of make it stay in. So you might have to make your knees track straight ahead. Because remember, we're not symmetrical. So make the knees track straight ahead, and also don't go any further than the toes. So the best way to monitor that is if you bend your knees and you can no longer see your toes, then your knees have gone past your toes because you're looking down, straight down. So you want to only bring your knees so you can still see your toes, like this. Think also about perhaps sitting back on the heels a little bit more, so that as the knees come forward and I bend, I'm sitting back, almost like I'm sitting in a chair. That's really what it's like. So this is the beginning of chair pose in yoga, also known as Utkatasana. Utkatasana. So we can also do it with the arms out like this for balance. And that can be a nice way to practice, or the arms out like this on the back of the chair. So do that a few more times. This is one of those exercises that if you can remember to do it on a regular basis, even just 10 times a day, as long as you're not getting any pain or discomfort in the knees or the hips, it's a good way to build strength, because as we sit down, we keep the buttocks engaged here. So we want the gluteal muscles engaged, the quadriceps are engaged, and also the abdomen here. So there's a stability that comes, even though we're bending the knees, there's a stability in this part of the body that we want to maintain. There'll be some movement, but it'll be stable because of the firmness here and here and here. And we'll come back up, and let's come back to our mountain pose. And we're going to do a coat sleeves, or just swing the arms like this. We were practicing a moment ago bending the knees. So think about keeping the knees soft when you do this. You don't have to bend them so much as just keep them relaxed. So we'd like to do this with slightly bent knees. I'll turn sideways so you can see. Not straight legs. So it's not like this. It's the knees slightly bent. And the reason we do that is because it's, one is it's more stable, but the knee joint isn't locked. So we don't want the knee joint locked, especially if we're doing any twisting or turning. And there's a slight turning of the upper body here. So the abdomen is turning. Actually, let's come back like this for a moment. And let's bring the hands up like this. And we're going to turn, think about moving the elbows back. Elbows are going back. You could also rest your hands up here, kind of whatever's most comfortable. You could bring your hands down here. You could even have your hands like this. But think about moving the elbow back. And as you move the elbow back, feel this movement. There's a band right between the, this is the hip bone, top hip bone here, and the ribs here. Think about this band of skin here moving. Almost like a, I don't think anybody wears cummerbunds anymore, but if you dressed formally, the man would wear a cummerbund. And I guess, I'm not even sure why they did that. I guess it looked fancy. But we want this movement right here where the navel is. And then come back and stand up nice and tall in mountain pose. And then we're going to do a little bit of little climbing, reaching up like this. And reaching up. So if you're standing, continue to reach up. And as you reach up, think about the weight shifting onto the side that you're reaching on, so that my other side, the knee bends slightly. So my weight is on this side of the body, and I'm extending up from the foot all the way up and through the ribs and the armpit and the arm. So I'm not holding it like that, though. I was just showing you. So I'm going back and forth. So I'm not holding it. If you feel like you want to hold it, go slower. Slow the movement down. And then it'll feel more like you're holding it. So if you want to go really slow, that's okay. And there's a softness in the knees. So the knees are bending slightly. And then as I reach up, I'm extending. So this might remind you a little bit of tree pose. So when we do tree pose, one side is straight like this, and the other side is bent. But we haven't shifted all of our weight now. And it's the same thing seated. So if you're standing, please continue standing. If you're seated, it's the same thing. You can shift the weight over to one side, press the foot down. So you're going back and forth. So if you're seated, you'll feel the sitting bones moving underneath you, back and forth. If you're standing, you'll feel the weight shifting more on the feet themselves. You could even let the hands, the hand can go all the way down if you want, and then reach all the way up. You can even glide up like a dancer if you want. For anybody who's a dancer, gliding up. You could even speed it up a little bit if you wanted. So this will raise the energy up a little to do a little faster. You can also add the breath. Inhaling Inhaling. Inhaling. And then coming back down and then swinging the arms again. So remember before we were doing, we did this and then we did the elbows. So as you swing the arms like this, feel that band of skin moving along the belly. And then come back. And we're going to lift up. So this we're going to do. We're going to start with we're going to do a couple balance poses today. We're going to start with our crane pose. So remember, if you need help with balance, touch the chair like this, or stand at the wall. You can have the fingers on the wall behind you, but don't neglect your balance here. We can lift up and then down. And depending on how you're feeling, you can lift your knee a little higher, or you can even work just like when we were working with peeling the foot off the floor earlier. Think about just peeling the foot off the floor like this. It doesn't even have to come all the way off the floor. It could stay a little bit on the floor. So that'll mean that you'll have a little better balance because you'll have that, so instead of having the fingers, or maybe you have the fingers on the chair anyway, but anytime we touch something, it helps with our balance. And let's go back and forth. If you want more of a challenge, go slower and lift higher. Go slower and lift higher. And see if you can keep yourself focused, that drishti point. Sometimes a tree pose, we'll talk about a drishti point. So focus your attention on something that won't move. See if that helps your balance. Breathing nice and steady. So it's a natural breath in. And even as we lift the foot, we think about extending the spine up. So there's a lengthening from the foot all the way up through the crown of the head. And see if you can control the foot coming down too. Sometimes there's a tendency to drop the foot quickly to get back on the floor. See if you can slow it down a little. So this becomes a real meditation, a real focus of the mind to do these things at the same time. Extending the spine, breathing in, keeping our balance. And then come back down and swing your arms again. And that's what yoga really is. So we call this Hatha Yoga. It's a physical aspect of yoga, or it's a yoga where we use our body as a vehicle to focus the mind. So all the other yogas, there's a lot of different yogas, and we don't really have time to talk about them today, but there's so many different kinds of yogas. They're all ways to focus the mind, or to put ourselves back together, to unite our mind, our body, and our spirit into one sort of package that works together well. So we're not all disjointed. And let's do tree pose. And so if you want, if you've been standing for long enough and you want to sit down, you can do tree pose seated. So actually, I'm going to show it seated. But if you know it and you want to continue standing, please continue standing. So seated tree pose, we sit up nice and tall. And if you're standing, you're extending the spine up, standing up nice and tall, and then shifting the weight onto one leg. So go ahead and pat that leg right on the thigh and shift the weight over, and then you can turn the other leg out, or the other thigh out. And then resting the heel on one of the legs of the chair is a nice way to practice here. And extending up. And you can use the arms if you want. Arms out to the side, palms touching in the front, palms touching overhead, whatever's comfortable, whatever feels nice. If you're standing, sometimes balance is a little easier with the arms out like this because you've got the arms extended, and that can help with balance. And remember that drishti point. And remember, you can come down whenever you want. You can also come down and take a break if you want. Just come down and then take a breath and then come back up. If your arms get tired, same thing. And if you start to lose your balance, it's okay to come down. Let's do the other side. So if you're seated, it's the same thing. We shift the weight over onto the opposite buttock. If you're standing, we shift the weight into the opposite leg. Give it a pat. And this tells you this is the leg. Press the foot, extend the side of the body, turn the thigh out. So we're turning out right where the inside of the thigh meets right at the groin. And then find that spot for the sole of the foot, whether it's on the inside of the calf or if you're seated, it's on the side of the chair, on the leg of the chair. And then you can add your arms. Remember to breathe. So find some joy here. So yoga, we practice yoga because it brings us joy. We need to figure out how to find that joy in yoga, just like we need to find it in life. We need to figure out things we need to do, the thoughts we need to think, the attitudes we need to have. And then we'll come back down. It's life's a lot better that way. But it really does take a lot of effort, especially these days. So these are challenging times. And I'm glad everybody's here for yoga. So let's see. So we did, before we sit down, so I want to do this. I'm trying to get in the habit of doing this. This is that practice where we're standing behind the chair and we're extending the leg back and lifting the heart up. So start with that. So stepping forward and then back, lifting the heart up. You might even lift the chin ever so slightly. Just don't drop the head back. It's not that. It's lifting. So the lengthening is really coming here, and the chin is just a little extension of that. So we lift up, and then we step forward and up. And for this one, remember you can bend the knee ever so slightly, or maybe soften is better. Soften the knee when your foot comes forward, and then as your ball of the foot comes back, the buttocks engages here. Think about pressing the foot down and extending the leg up. Kind of like what we were doing in tree pose, right? We press the foot and extend everything up on the side in tree pose, just like we're doing here. And if you're seated, you will have slid over to the edge of the chair. Just make sure you don't fall off. And you can step back like this, and it's a little easier seated to actually do the arm, but there's the same shape, the same general shape. Let me turn sideways so you can see. So we have our shape like this. And even though it doesn't look exactly the same, it's the same idea of this curvature in the front here and this lengthening. It's different, but also a lot the same. And we're going to switch sides. So please switch sides. And if you really want more of a challenge, balance is really good. You don't have to use the chair. I always recommend, though, that you have a chair handy. It's always nice because even if you just touch it sometimes to maintain your balance, it can be a nice way to practice. And some days we're more wobbly than others. Some days it's really hard to stay in a balanced pose. And so on those days, you might want to be able to touch something. And sometimes one side of the body will balance it better, with more ease than the other side. I'm not sure why that is, but I guess we're just, each side's different. And then we'll come back down. We're going to swing the arms. So the knees are soft here. Knees are soft. Think about that. Actually, let's do this. Bring the feet a little closer together. And just do kind of wobbly knees like this. So the only thing that's really moving here, the upper part of the body is just sitting or is just hanging. My spine is extended and my face is soft. And I'm just sort of wiggling my knees back and forth like this. And the movement's very small. So it's better to do a little bit and not go so fast until you start to get the feeling. So what we're doing is we're contracting and releasing the muscles. And so in order to be able to do it faster, it usually takes a period of practice. So you're teaching the muscles, they're turning on and turning off, kind of like this. So if anybody practices Tai Chi or Qigong and you do this practice, in the beginning, it can be difficult to do it quickly, or at least you end up with everything being tense at the whole time. And it's the same thing here. So we want to feel like we're bouncy, springy. And then come back. And we're going to sit down. We're going to sit down and sit up nice and tall. We're going to do eagle arms. We've been working on that one as well. So eagle arms, we're going to hold one arm out like this. We're going to bring the other hand or arm under like this. So you could, depending on your the flexibility in the shoulder, and remember, we want to do this without any pain or discomfort, or we're not forcing the arm over like this. I'm bringing it over so it's comfortable, and the elbow should not go past the other elbow. So at the most, this elbow will support the other elbow. And we're going to just pause here for a moment and relax the shoulders down. If you need to, you can drop the arms down a little bit, and that'll help release the shoulders. They won't be so bunched up. And think about extending the spine up when you're doing this. So I get in this position and release the arms for a moment. So get into the position with the arms and then relax the arms a little bit. So remember, balance, ease, and effort. So relax the arms a little bit and then think about extending the spine up and see what it feels like. So we hold the opposite arm out. We support the opposite arm. Take a couple of breaths, relax the shoulders, and then keep the arms in place, let go of some of the effort, not over-efforting, and then think about, as you breathe in, extending the spine up. And then release down. So sometimes you'll find that if you focus on extending the spine, when you're already in a position where the muscles are stretched or contracted or whatever they're doing, that you get a little extra stretch from that, from extending the spine. You don't do anything with the arms. It's the spine extending. And let's do the other side. And this time we'll hold the hand out like this. And this time, if you want, you can slide the elbow under. And if it's comfortable for you, so remember, we can also use a strap or scarf. So imagine this is a scarf, even though it's not a scarf, doesn't make any difference. So, and let's see, we're doing this one. So I hold it in the hand, the straight arm hand, and then I come under like this, and it gives me something to hold on to. So I bring the hand under and hold on like this. You can still work like this. There's nothing wrong with that. And if that feels comfortable, you can try bending the arm like this until you're able to get the elbows one under the other. And that might take some time. So like this. And eventually, you can join the fingers somehow. And you notice in the full pose, really the fingers are actually intertwined with each other, which I don't know if you can see my face here. That's not so easy to do. And we're going to breathe and relax here. So breathe, soften the shoulders. Most important thing is to breathe, soften the shoulders, and extend the spine. And then we're going to slowly release and come back down. Let's roll the shoulders for a moment. The other way. Let's do the other side. So hold the other arm out, and the other arm comes under and swings around. So this one's a little easier for me. And you might find you're the same, that one side is easier. And take a couple of breaths. Remember, you can still work like this, or you can work with the arm like this bent. Oh, and you can also have your strap, your scarf, like this. Sitting up nice and tall, relaxing the shoulders, especially as you exhale, soften. Soften the face and eyes. This is one of those poses where, and let's release, where softening as you exhale can be particularly helpful to releasing the shoulders down. And let's do some cactus breaths. And let's circle the arms around with the breath. So we inhale and the hands float up and around. So we started out, this was really the first movement that we did. And then feel the shoulder blades, feel the shoulders, and see if there's a little bit more ease, or feel a little bit more stretched. Muscles feel a little more engaged in the shoulders than they were at the beginning. You're probably at least warmer. And let's go the other way. So we release the hands down, and then as we inhale, the palms float up, and then they touch over the head, and then they float down right in the front. So think about that nice ease of the hands moving down on the exhalation. It's almost like the exhalation is like this little letting the air out of a balloon, and the hands, as the balloon gets smaller, the hands are moving down towards the floor. And a couple of cactus breaths. Remember, you can adjust the height of this so it's comfortable. That's important. And then we're going to come to our Savasana. So take whatever you need. I'm going to take a blanket here for a little lumbar support. Take whatever it is you need to support yourself in a comfortable position. So if we're not comfortable, it's not possible to relax, especially in a chair. And you are welcome to use the floor if you want. If you're familiar with laying down on the floor in Savasana, feel free to do that. You could also, there's in yoga, we have something called, in Sanskrit, it's called Pratyahara. So it's withdrawal of the senses. And sometimes we can't really withdraw the senses so much as we help dampen them with things like, notice I put my hood up, and it actually creates a nice, it's almost like being in a little cave. I'm going to take my hat off too. I think that's why maybe yogis hung out in caves, because nobody bothered them. And so it also covers my ears a little bit. And in the event, I've actually been in places where it's bright and I'll have a little hat on and I'll actually pull my hat down over my eyes. So Pratyahara is sort of covering up the ears a little bit, or making the sound less noticeable. Same with the eyes. And even the feeling, so any really sense that you can calm down a little bit. And that allows us to bring our mind inward. So we're no longer thinking about or feeling the body so much as we bring our attention inwards. And we'll bring that attention to the breath. Bring that attention to the breath. So feeling the breath moving in and out. And anywhere you notice the body, just let that part of the body relax, soften, release, let go. You can even repeat some of those words to yourself silently. Sometimes that helps to release certain parts of the body. Release, relax, let go. I encourage you to continue with your Savasana for as long as you like. I'll tap the bell and we'll formally end our class, but please feel free to continue on your own. I'll see everyone next time.